And we'll start out with a game that ended not that long before we cracked the microphones here within the last couple hours in downtown Minneapolis, right next to the Sid Hartman statue in the Twin Cities there. Closeout game, Ant Edwards and the Timberwolves. Game 5 there against Jimmy Butler and the Warriors. Minnesota, the setup up 3-1. They rolled into the Target Center. Steph Curry did not roll out on the court. He couldn't play. Too fragile to play, and he was on the sidelines again. And Boston, earlier on the NBA card, they won. We'll talk more about that game later. So they stayed alive. The Bee Gees staying alive. And so Golden State had their chance to stay alive. And if you were watching the game, you knew what happened, but perhaps you did not watch the game. Julius Randle, for years a playoff turd, but not on this night. Julius Randle, 29 points. He took 18 shots. He made 13 of the 18. That seems pretty good. I didn't play in the NBA, but I think that's pretty good. So Randle had 29 points on 13 of 18 shooting. Anthony Edwards added 22 points and 12 assists. And the Timberwolves led by as many as 25 points. And they found their way into the next level of the NBA postseason. 121-110 the final as they get the win over the Warriors. So Minnesota wins the series 4-1. The Wolves have now advanced to the Western Conference Finals again, where they will play either the Thunder or the Nuggets, and the winner of that will go on to the NBA Finals. Minnesota could have as many as 5 days off. OMG. They'll be so rusty. 5 days off. That's if the Nuggets beat the Thunder in the Mile High City coming up on Thursday night, and that would force a Game 7 in that series. So more on all that. We have plenty of time to talk about all that later on. The better story, though, is in the eliminated locker room. Not the loser's locker room, the elimination. That's what happened to the team from Northern California. So let us discuss the question. Did the Warriors ever have a real shot without Steph Curry, or was this series over before it started once Curry, his hammy, went whammy? So I've got Looney Tunes, Jacuzzi, and Biblical. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make the Baba Ganoush is what we're going to make. The Baba Ganoush. All right, so my first thought on this, the Warriors were clearly on life support. They had aspirations of championships and all these wonderful things. But the moment Curry went down, I mean, they won that game. Buddy Hield, game 1. Buddy Hield played well. Golden State wins with Steph Curry playing limited time because he got hurt. I think he played 13 minutes in that game. And that was it. And as Steph Curry goes, it turns out so go the Warriors. The Jenga tower, when you take Curry out of the wobbly Jenga tower, it comes tumbling down, down, down. And so, as was the case here, Golden State ends up their playoff run booby-trapped, or in this case, hammy-trapped, by Steph Curry, who was sitting on the bench getting hemorrhoids as Golden State floundered. There was a comical report we'll get to later, which I have to bring this up at some point during the show about Curry and how he was trying to come back. We'll explain more on that later in the show. But the Warriors were a beautiful sandcastle when they got Jimmy Butler on a sunshiny day. Yeah, the weather's nice, getting better. Summertime's around the corner, and just beautiful sandcastle. And then Steph Curry, when he went Rice Krispies, snap, crackle, pop goes the hammy, they were the sandcastle at high tide. Right? They were the sandcastle at high tide. And was Steve Kerr outcoached in this particular series? Was he outcoached? Well, Chris Finch, the other coach for the Warriors, we're not sure if outcoached is the right word to describe Steve Kerr. Like, I don't know that he did anything. I don't know that you can be outcoached if you don't do anything. When Steph Curry left because of injury, Steve Kerr and Golden State had a chance. They were suddenly dead and buried. They were a cow stuck in a hole on the side of the road. And this was an opportunity for them to overachieve and for all the criticism. Well, anybody could have coached the Golden State Warriors back when they had the Splash Brothers and they had Durant. They were winning championships. Well, here's an opportunity for Steve Kerr and a team to overachieve. Right? Kerr could go out there, coach them up, scheme them up, outperform your suddenly very low expectations. Did any of that happen? I think not. Well, anyway, here is Steve Kerr commenting on the big story of Golden State season. They were not playing that great, and then they made the trade. They got Jimmy Butler, who did not want to go to the Warriors. He initially did not want to play for the Warriors, and then they paid him some more money, so he said, okay, you paid me, I'll go. Here's Steve Kerr waxing loquacious about Jimmy Butler. Take a listen.
I love our guys. Like I said, we this was a hell of a run for us. Considering where we were at the trade deadline. Jimmy changed our season, flipped everything for us, gave us a chance. We became one of the best teams in the league, and obviously, you get to the final 8 in the NBA, you're one of the best teams, and we had a shot, but things didn't go our way. But like I said, Minnesota deserves the credit. They were the better team.
Yeah, well, wait a minute, because I was told when I mentioned, like in years past, when the Clippers have gotten to the Elite Eight or the Final Four, oh, nobody says that. Nobody says that's impressive. Well, here's Steve Kerr saying that's impressive. So all you haters are, well, no one's happy about making the Elite Eight. Steve Kerr just said you're one of the better teams in the NBA when you get to the Elite Eight. He just said it. But as far as Jimmy Butler's concerned, to me, that's more disappointing than Steve Kerr. Like, that's a guy we support. We don't like many people on this show. There's many people that we take shots at on a regular basis. But one of the players we like watching is Jimmy Butler. And he went Looney Tunes, right? From playoff Jimmy. Here's another guy. Opportunity. Knock, knock at the front door. Opportunity. Steph Curry's out. You figure at some point he's going to come back. You just got to carry the load for 3 or 4 games without Curry. And that's Jimmy Butler, who's done it with other teams. Playoff Jimmy went to he had a metamorphosis. He went from playoff Jimmy to Pepe Le Pew. P.U. What stinks? The baton was passed from Curry to Butler. Said, hey, I need a pick-me-up here. And Jimmy Butler took the baton, and he fumbled it right into the sewer. He was sleepwalking. There were points in these last couple of games, I think he was playing in a medically induced coma. I'm waiting for the almost guaranteed report. It happens all the time. Well, he was playing with some kind of injury, and he didn't disclose it. That story always comes out after the fact. But as a result, the Warriors did something they have never done in the postseason going back over 50 years. The Warriors had not lost 4 straight playoff games in a single postseason since 1972. Holy crap. All right, now page 2. Is this the official end game for Golden State as a contender? A feeble exit from the postseason against the Minnesota basketball team. Is this the official end for Golden State there? Or do they have one last run, one last dance left in them? So as you know, not only do I moonlight as a gas bag, blowhard, and know-it-all here at Fox Sports Radio, I am also a Maller meteorologist. I can forecast what's ahead for all of these teams. I know you're waiting with bated breath. So the Maller meteorologist forecast for the next year or two for the Warriors, Golden State is now entering the twilight zone. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. You got Steph Curry, who's, 37, Draymond Green, 35, in the twilight zone of their careers. Curry's hammy is already whammy, so he's got, the older you get, he's got the issues, the cloud hanging over him. Jimmy Butler, 35, also has dealt with various injuries, and he missed about 25% of the games during his time with the Miami Heat. Some of that because he was at loggerheads with Pat Riley. But that's an issue. So you've got major durability concerns. Golden State, what they need to do is swing another trade with the Sunshine State, and they need to pick up a jacuzzi, but a Ponce de Leon jacuzzi. That's what they need to get, a Ponce de Leon jacuzzi. Because Ponce de Leon, he has that mythical spring. I think it's in St. Augustine, Florida, and it will restore youth to anyone who drinks or bathes in the water there. So that's what they have to get. So as long as they have that, they're fine. Like, how many young players have passed through Golden State that were supposed to be that next wave that turned out to be turds? Like, one after another, whether the team didn't trust them or they just didn't live up to the lofty expectations, but it's been a constant stream for that particular team. Now, last word. We go to the winning locker room, the winners. So back to the Final Four, the swing in effect for the Minnesota basketball team, as they are just 4 wins away from getting to the finals. So the question on this is Anthony Edwards' playoff run with the Timberwolves. Is his playoff run shutting up the doubters? A classic sports debate. There's nothing the doubters could say. I mean, come on. Okay. So the resume is looking good, depending on whether or not you put it under the microscope, because Anthony Edwards now has playoff series wins against Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Nikola Jokic. All of that before he even turns 24. So that's pretty good. Now, LeBron washed up and old. We can all agree on that. Ran out of gas in the playoffs. Steph Curry got hurt. Does that really count? Who knows? And the Jokic one, sure. Durant, okay, if you want to give up credit for that, that's fine. So in terms of the question, is Anthony Edwards' playoff run, shutting up the doubters? I'm going to shake my head. No. I'm shaking my head. No, you can't see me. You don't look at me. I'm shaking my head. No. This has been a roller coaster, up and down, and loop-de-loop. The Timberwolves have been the beneficiaries of what we would call biblical kindness in this playoff run. It's the classic biblical story, Moses parting the Red Sea. Minnesota has beaten the 40-year-old LeBron, who ran out of gas. If you don't believe me, look at his fourth quarter numbers. The out-of-shape Luka, and slaying the always overrated Lakers, who hired a podcaster as their coach, and he coached like a podcaster. It was so good to see. I love when a hot take is validated. I love a good hot take validation, and podcaster J.J. Redick validated the hot take. Thank you for that, J.J. All right, so that win, okay, you beat old LeBron and out-of-shape Luka. Lakers aren't very good. We all know that. And now you put under the Mallory microscope, you take out the Warriors, a team that was neutered. They had their balls chopped off when Steph Curry left with a hammy injury. So you're not getting a lot of style points under the microscope. Now, wide-angle lens, it looks pretty good for the low-information fan. The casual fan will say that's very impressive. But under the microscope, again, not that much. And so there you go. In that being said, in the modern NBA, we've seen this a lot with, like, Indiana has made back-to-back conference finals, and they have been the beneficiary as well of pop goes the Achilles over there for Dame Lillard, for example, or some of the injuries that have taken place with Cleveland had a bunch of guys out, although I don't think they would have won anyway, but that's fine. So in the modern NBA, this is how you get it done. You can talk about getting all these great players and having amazing talent, but really what you need is a good voodoo doll. That's the secret. If you have a good voodoo doll, that is the great equalizer. Every NBA postseason is a war of attrition. It's always been. But the players are softer now than they've ever been. They have the greatest medical. They have all the top minds in sports medicine, all the Ivy League geniuses that are babying them and coddling the players. And it doesn't matter. Right? They have it all figured out, right? They have all the medical figured out, when you're going to get hurt. You have to rest this amount of time to avoid getting hurt. And they still go out and get hurt all the time, right? So whatever team gets injured the least will go the furthest in the postseason. Now, in terms of what this all means, it's a mixed bag for the Wolves because they are very reliant on Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, and they have to score. And it's obviously a soft underbelly for Minnesota because if either one has an off performance, if they underperform, then that's an issue. The three-point shooting is not good. The defense appears to be the meat and potatoes for the Timberwolves. And they make a lot of unforced errors, as they say in tennis, which becomes problematic if you play a team that can take advantage of that, which would be more Oklahoma City. If you play Denver, that's a much better opportunity for Minnesota than OKC, but we shall see. It is the Ben Maller Show. If you'd like to be part of this shindig, you're going to open up the Fox Sports phone lines, the Fox Sports Radio Ben Maller Show phone lines, which is always a dangerous thing, but we will do that anyway. And if you would like to be part, you can join us right now. And how do you do that? Well, you call in 877-99 on Fox. That's 877-996-6369. Also on X, at Ben Maller. That's at Ben Maller if you want to be part of the program. And we're just beginning the red-eye flight through the overnight as we work our way through. Later on, we'll have Ask Ben. That'll be in hour 3. We've got Maller to the third degree in hour 2. Way down the line, you will definitely not be listening by hour 4. You probably won't be listening by the end of this hour. But we'll have Fact or Fiction in hour 4. So all this content, all of it will be available on the pod. It's not up yet because we're still doing the live show. We're still doing the live show, so the podcast can't go because we're still doing it. But we will get to all that as we work our way through. We also have the Maller Riddle of the Day as well. So we'll get to it. And we'll take your comments on X at Ben Maller. That's at Ben Maller as Minnesota has punched their ticket on to the next level in the NBA playoffs. While we'll get to the East later on, do a full Maller monologue. But oops-a-daisy. What you doing, Knickerbockers? You going to F this thing up, Knicks? You going to screw this thing up? You certainly started the process. Trust the process of effing things up. And I don't know about you. I have a lot of relatives that are Knicks fans, but I would not mind seeing Spike Lee crying and Ben Stiller and all those loser Knicks fans. I wouldn't mind seeing them crying after the Knicks blow a series lead. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd be all for it.